I haven't seen a single piece of writing that is responsive to what I've requested. I think they realize now that we're serious, and I think Senator Tillis is pretty much on the same page that I am, so they better get real, and there's not much time left.
If it stands as it is now, right now, would you vote
no?
no?
I'm not prepared to vote yes. Let me put it that way.
That was Senator John Cornyn earlier today. Not being prepared to vote yes is the same as a no vote. That's where he currently stands. On Todd Blanche, the Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley, and another key Republican, Thom Tillis, are all meeting right now in John Cornyn's office. We're back with Mark, Director Brennan, and Lisa. Director Brennan, I'm with Mark Elias that, one, we don't hold our breath for Republicans to do the right thing. My only point earlier was that they choose not to. And two, we're already there, right? I think we all, between the re-election of Donald Trump and the beginning of a second term, wondered how bad it would be and how quickly, and it was the worst it could be immediately. I spent about an hour and a half with Brian Driscoll today, and what's happened inside the FBI is the only thing that rivals what's happened inside the Department of Justice. And the only thing that rivals those two sort of political calamities is what's happened inside ODNI. And the only thing more alarming is what's happened inside the Pentagon at the Department of Defense, which has been oddly renamed the Department of War. I mean, they've turned the government upside down and on its head already. And I wonder what you make of this sort of inability to grasp that.
Well, it's not exactly a profile in courage for Senator Cornyn to show a bit of backbone on the way out the door. Like Mark, I've given up on most Republicans, finding the integrity and the decency that really should be a testament to the type of work that they should be doing, but it's not. And so therefore, I'm glad that, John Cornyn is pushing this issue. I'm hoping that others will do it as well. As we said, Todd Blanche should not be confirmed as the Attorney General of the United States, given his track record as acting and before that as deputy. But also, again, as we talked before, the position that they're putting people in these organizations. And I do say that, professionals, whether it be in ODNI or law enforcement, FBI, Department of Justice, wherever, they do have options. There are inspectors general that they can go to. There are whistleblower channels they can go to. There are members of the oversight committees that really take seriously their responsibilities. They happen to be all on the Democratic side at this time. But if individuals are being asked to do things unethical or illegal or something that puts our national security at risk and in danger, they can go there. There's also responsible members of the media that would love to be able to expose the corruption, the fraud, as well as the dangerous actions that are taking place. So the impact that this administration has had on the professionals in these various organizations and institutions, is profound, and unfortunately, I think it is lasting. And I really do wish that some more Republicans, even the ones out the door, would show a bit more courage in terms of pushing back against this administration.
Mark Elias, I feel like today we have the smoking gun evidence of the damage done by one of the chief capitulators, and that's Big Law. Because if they hadn't capitulated, paid bribes to Donald Trump, and agreed to work for Boris over at Commerce or wherever else they're doing their pro bono work, then everybody targeted by Trump might have the kind of legal representation that Jim Comey does. Jim Comey knows these three things about the Secret Service carrying out warrantless surveillance that they know at the time is illegal because he has the kind of lawyers that he has in David Kelly and Pat Fitzgerald. Jim Comey will probably prevail in the judicial branch, that one leg of the stool, because he has not just good lawyers, not just great lawyers, but the best of the best. A lot of people at that caliber go work in big fancy law firms to make money, which is their right. But when their law firms capitulate to Donald Trump to save their M&A businesses, it's really hard for those best of the best lawyers to represent people like Brendan Blue or Brian Driscoll or others who get targeted politically.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point. And it's part of the reason why I get so exercised about this topic every time we talk about it, because it is, of course, not just the people at the top of government who have capitulated. And I think that we need, as lawyers, myself included, we need to look at the legal profession and ask ourselves what the hell happened. I mean, how did we wind up in a situation in which the largest, most profitable law firms in America have turned out to be total cowards. In fact, worse than cowards. In many of these instances, they have not just capitulated, they've become collaborators. They are sort of in joint venture business with this administration. And this has downstream effects. You know, I'm old enough to remember that when government employees, and I don't mean the people at the top who, you know, could always get top-notch lawyers. But I remember, you know, when rank and file White House officials or career civil servants got caught up in something and they needed lawyers, big law firms would provide pro bono or very, very reduced rate representation so that all of these people could have lawyers. None of them are doing that now. None of them are willing to do that. In fact, we just watched, I think today or yesterday, one of the largest, most prestigious law firms in New York enter an appearance on behalf of Donald Trump in a case involving, you know, Jean Carroll. I mean, it's going the opposite direction, and the impact that is having on real people, on exactly the people that Director Brennan is concerned about, that, you know, I don't want to seem unfeeling about, but the impact it is having is horrific. And the legal industry has not done self-reflection. The American Bar Association has not done the self-reflection it needs to do. And so I'm 100% with you.
Well, I'm not worried about their feelings because, I spent an hour and a half with Brian Driscoll today, who does this TED Talk and says, it is what it is something that people who have stopped fighting say, right? It isn't what it is. And Kevin Warsh knows who won the 2020 election. And if he can look in the mirror and feel good about himself because he gets to be this big fancy job he's always wanted, he shouldn't be so proud of himself. He couldn't tell the truth about who won the election. So good luck running the economy. I hope for all of our sake it goes well. Jay Clayton knows who won in 2020. And if he can look in the mirror, if he thinks his kids are proud of him, I hope he's right. Right? I want that for him. But I wouldn't be proud to have him as a neighbor if he couldn't say the word W-O-N about Joe Biden in 2020. And if you are looking at an offer from one of the law firms that capitulated and you think you can do anything else at the beginning of your career, go do it. Because you are in bed with people who will not have your back if you do something hard. Because if they don't have their own backs, when Donald Trump comes knocking, not because they did something wrong, but because they did something that pissed off Donald Trump, right? They got involved in causes that are associated with things that these firms have believed in. And now, again, they work for Boris and they do pro bono work for the Commerce Department. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. And I think that the asymmetry of people not wanting to call out people at the beginning of their careers and say, you don't want to be associated with these things, is having this downstream effect of letting people say, oh, it is what it is. It isn't what it is. Like none of you have capitulated, and here we are. And it's halfway over. Like, I think on the other side, it's going to be equally unemployable to have been a part of these abominations. So I appreciate all of you having this conversation, and thank you for listening to me vent.